What's up, you guys? James Strickland here. Welcome to week 8 on my road to 2,100 pounds and my continuation on my road to 700 pounds on bench. So this week is a deload, so nothing too terribly exciting. My rest and recovery during this week is pretty much spot on. I take 3 weeks hard training, then my 4th week I back things down. Obviously last week I did 610 for 2 on this. This is 455 and very, very light, 3 sets of 3. I actually did something a little different this week, and I normally don't take my pre-workout before workouts on a deload week, and that's for a couple reasons. One is I really don't care to just throw caffeine in my body all the time if I don't have to, and I kind of develop a tolerance for it. Not too much lately, as I did in the beginning of the training, or back, years back when I was doing multiple scoops of pre-workout versus what I'm kind of supposed to. I just kind of got used to the, intolerant, or became intolerant to it. So it's kind of become a habit in my deloads in the last couple of years. And I've actually noticed it makes it a little bit harder for me to stay mentally focused in my deload week. So the weight feels considerably heavier than it should. And it's not just due to the fatigue that is built up the 3 weeks prior, but actually due to just not bringing it 100% like I always preach. So I'm not being careless with my deload weeks, but I have noticed, and I'm actually filming from above here just as a funny, kind of entertaining post on Instagram, just kind of showing everybody how light this really is. But I did put 100% into this this whole workout, in every workout this week, just like I always do, but I gave it a little bit extra this week, and it seemed to work very well for me. Basically, instead of thinking of this as a top set like I typically do on a deload week and treating it as such, I treated it like a warm-up because this is something I normally warm up with. And instead of treating it like, okay, I need to bring it because this is going to be heavy, and it actually kind of ends up being heavy, almost in a way. It's kind of a weird mental state. I actually prevented myself from getting into that kind of lackadaisy attitude this week a little bit more than normal. This is dips, by the way, with 45 pounds, so extremely light compared to the 200 plus pounds last week. So as you can see, I'm really not focusing on moving heavy weight at all at any capacity. This week is literally just to get out of the house, get off the couch, and get into the weight room and get some blood flow into the muscles using the same exercises I do in the previous weeks. So there's the lying cable flies. This is 80 pounds, 2 sets of 15. Before the dips was 2 sets of 5. So very, very light volume, very, very light weight. But even on these cable flies, my pecs, considering this is about half the weight I did last week, my pecs were actually on fire. So bringing it in a little bit different mental state, I was actually able to work a little harder this week. Even though my body's not actually moving as much weight, I was able to stay in the zone, which is really key, especially in a meet prep. I don't want to get out of the zone for too long. And so my idea here this week was to basically, I have basically 5 weeks till the meet, June 2nd at the American Fitness Expo, and I want to stay in the game mentally as long as I can without fatiguing myself mentally. But I'm having fun with this whole week, this whole workout, versus going in and kind of going, well, just throw these weights around, no big deal. It's more of, okay, let's treat it as if it's not just the warm-up weight that I would normally warm up with, but a weight that's actually going to progress me forward. So moving on here, this is day 2 and the speed squats basically, and this is supposed to be 465. 465 was just incredibly ridiculously light, so I went ahead and just put an even 500 on there. This is 3 sets of 3, and I decided to even pause it. So I'm just kind of, I don't want to say playing with the weight, but that was kind of my attitude, more of a in my own mind, a cockiness, just bringing it forward this week. These are weights that are warm-up weights. There's no reason these should hurt at all. Body feels great, and so I just put 100% into these weights, and the workouts went very, very quick because of that. Deloads are about half the workload and about half the time that I normally would be in the gym. And these actually, coming at it with a kind of a slightly different attitude, sped it up even more. So I was in the gym for maybe an hour, if that, on most days. In fact, the third day I was in the gym for 20 minutes. I did stay a little longer because I was training with my wife and doing some stuff with her, but I wasn't actually moving any weights. So just to give you an idea of how light everything is and how much volume is really decreased on this deload. So moving on here, these are Olympic squats paused, 315 on the bar, two sets of 3. And I actually noticed that my form wasn't ideal for an Olympic squat. I think I just didn't have enough weight on the bar to really sit back. I thought it was literally going to just fly off my back, so I wanted to hold it. Normally I have my head up a little further, my back a little straighter, a little more vertical than it is. It's more like a close stance, regular squat. Moving on here to my deadlift holds, overhand, double overhand with 300 pounds, and I just went 315 to make it easy. 315 for 15 seconds twice. It's just working on the grip strength this week. Notice I set the bar down quietly. There's absolutely no reason to slam a bar down on rack pulls, on deadlifts, on squats, on bench, I mean anything. So when I see cats in the gym that slam the weight down, it's purely for attention, or they're just too weak to set it down properly. So just a little tidbit there. I've never been that type to just slam a weight down, unless I was angry at it or something like that. That might be a case, but never just to do it, especially in a gym. I like to be respectful of other people and not be the big bozo clown in the corner that's throwing around his weights. So here we got hip abductions. This is a light 160, 20 reps each, 2 sets to close out this day. And so still feeling great about the week, getting 8 hours of sleep at night, upped my calories a few weeks back. I've been keeping them the same, just extra portions here and there, nothing extreme. And I actually went up to about 293 this week, which is about 3 to 4 pounds heavier than last week, and I think most of that's just due to the fact that my volume and workload has decreased, so my body weight has gone up because I'm not burning as many calories. So I'm sure that weight will just drop back off, not like it matters too much. I'm still well within the 308 weight class, which is what the next meet will be. So this is day 3, some light 15-pound dumbbells for my front raise, lateral raise, and bent over fly set. 2 sets and 8 reps on each set in the main set. These I literally did not even warm up for. Normally you'll see me do bands and I'll do like 10s and 15s, and then I'll move on to 20s, 25s, 35s. I literally, with 15 pounds, it was a joke. I did get a slight warm sensation in the shoulders about this part of each set, but this literally was not, like I said, this whole week is not meant to move heavy weight. It's meant to go through the motions, keep your mindset right, keep blood in the muscles, and just not get lazy. And when you sit down and don't do anything, it actually can make things worse. You'll go backwards. So moving on here, this is the wide grip seated rows. This is 160 pounds, 2 sets of 15 reps. I actually got more of a pump out of this than probably much of anything else in the whole week. And lastly, we've got the stand-in one-arm rear delt cable flies. This is it called for 20 pounds. I went ahead and just put 30 because 20 was just absolutely too light. This is 2 sets of 15 each arm. Still working on good form, getting a good stretch, making sure that the mind-muscle connection is there. So mentally, I am extremely excited going forward. I've hit many PRs leading up to this week. This week is just obviously the standard deload. Next week, I am really excited. We've got on the schedule for Monday, 640 paused bench. That will be the heaviest I've gone this season. And it's perfect timing, 4 weeks out. And then on squats, we'll have a kind of a lighter day versus last week. 685 was last week. Next week we'll do 600 for basically a triple. That's just to keep my legs in the game, but able to focus a little bit more on deadlift next week. So we're kind of doing an alternating schedule with deadlifts and squats going into the meet. And we'll be going for a PR in the gym for 720 on Friday of next week. So that will set me within 30 pounds of my goal weight for the meet for deadlift. We're already within 20 pounds on squat, and with bench, at least for the last meet, which that's what we're going off of number-wise, I'm within about 30 pounds of my goal weight, and I think that should be a walk in the park, but we will see. Moving on here, we've got last day, day 4. This was done on Friday, and it's pause squats with 365 as kind of a warm-up set. This actually called for 315, and I misread my program wrong, so 365 felt the same, so no big deal. Working on really just driving up into the squat and focusing on making it move like 600. So my focus is on the intention of moving the weight as if it was double what it is, and that really keeps my head in the game. You know, it's hard to think about that in terms of imagining what weight could be on the bar, but if you tense up the right way, if you grip the bar the right way, and you fire off the right way, your body will react as if it's the same amount of weight. So moving on to my main set today was 425 on deadlift, 3 sets of 3. Really working on firing those hips through and setting the weight down nicely. That was more of a point for the guys that I've seen earlier in the day, slamming 225 down on deadlift. So there's absolutely no reason, unless you drop the bar accidentally, to let go, because you're also cheating yourself on that range of motion as well. I actually got a really good back pump today. I'm not sure if it's just because I didn't take quite as much time in between my warm-up squats, and I pretty much dropped it down straight into my deadlift, starting at 315 and worked up. So took a little bit of taurine, which is my recommendation if you have back pump or workout-induced back pump. Not back pain, but back pump, where your lower back, basically the muscle gets tight because of the workout, and where you feel like you just need to sit down for a minute and it goes away. That's typically back pump. I used to interpret that as back pain, and I would do all sorts of weird things to try to fix it, and I'd actually make it worse. I'd roll out on it really, really hard with a lacrosse ball, and I'd actually injure myself doing that, and it would hurt me worse going into the next training day. I'd actually put a belt on way too tight before I needed to, and didn't know how to train my core correctly, and my forms, squat form was way off, but deadlift form was way off. And so that's a whole nother video, but so these are the pull-throughs. These are fairly light. I did, let's see, this was 120 pounds on the first one, and like 100 pounds on the first one, 120 pounds on the second one. Really working on firing those hips through. This helps with finishing that deadlift. So just like grip, it's not a problem, but I don't want it to be. And if I had to pick a weakest point in my deadlift, those items would be it. So we work on them now, so we don't have to have them be a problem and work on them after the fact, after missing a lift or anything like that. Moving on here to the Cobra lat pull downs. Actually called for 100 pounds, and actually correction on those the pull throughs, it was 135, because I remember I didn't actually change the weight. I just started the Cobra lat pull downs, and I realized that I didn't put the weight on it, and I wondered what weight I had, and I looked over and had 135. So these are 135 pound Cobra lat pull downs, light either way. Really working on the same motor patterns as always, regardless of the weight. And didn't actually break too much of a sweat on anything today, but the point of it, like I said, is to just go through the motions smartly, not in a lazy fashion. So now that I've got my training for the following week, I actually was able to, I knew what it was before this particular day. So what I did is started basically my mental prep. So mental prep for me is huge. It is not something I take lightly, but it's also not something I give a lot of credit to a lot of the time. But I am already thinking about doing this voiceover. It's a Friday night. I'm already thinking about what I can do tonight, tomorrow, Sunday, and then Monday morning leading up to my next bench day. And so I'm literally thinking, what can I eat that will help me? Because as you probably heard, or maybe you haven't, your most important night's rest is not the night before your competition or before you actually do an activity. It's typically the night before that, so night or 2 nights before, because you're setting your body up for success then. And so I've always kind of taken that to heart and actually taken it a little bit more serious than most, and I've actually gone backwards even further and said, well, if it's important enough to elite athletes to go back 1 or more days, why don't I just go back as many days as I can and start really focusing on the task at hand early on. These are the seated 1 1/4 hammer curls. This is 30 pounds, very light. 2 sets of 6 reps. Just getting a little bicep pump here. And then moving on, and I just left this at normal speed to give me a little more time to just talk. This is my static plate holds, and I've noticed a lot of you guys have been watching this video and commenting on doing them. And I'm not sure what the lady in the background is doing, but that's for your entertainment if you get bored with plate holds. So these really help with your grip strength. Typically, you will start losing your grip on your weakest fingers, which typically is away from your thumb, on your ring and your pinky. So you put the plate in between your ring finger and you hold it for 10 seconds or 20 seconds, and then you switch to the other hand. Then you switch to your pinky and your thumb. And so you just basically are working that grip strength. You'll feel it in your forearms, you'll feel it in your fingers, and your hands will get sore the first couple times you do it because you're working on some muscle patterns that you may not always work on. But you'll find yourself actually able to hold onto the bar a lot better because those muscles are trained to grip and hold for long periods of time, 20 seconds, which is longer than most deadlifts will take. So this is one thing that's working on grip strength. But so anyways, very excited about next week. Like I said, I'm already thinking about it. I'm already focusing on how much rest I need to get each night, what meals I typically like to eat over the weekend is obviously a lot of protein, a lot of carbs. I make sure I'm taking my supplements, my vitamins, drinking plenty of fluids, not too much sugary stuff that's not going to actually help me because it burns right off or just basically spikes the insulin. On the flip side, I'm already planning out my breakfast. Typically like chicken and waffles is my favorite pre-workout meal if I can get that going into Monday morning. And so I will be at Woodland Strength and Conditioning midday on Monday and getting ready to knock out a 640 bench and getting ready to get heavier for the following weeks. So this is just about a wrap for this week, being week 8. Next week is week 9. Week 9 will be just about 3.5 weeks out from the meet. The meet is at the American Fitness Expo in Houston, Texas at the George R. Brown Convention Center. I'll be lifting on Saturday on June 2nd during the full meet. So I'll be doing squat, bench, and deadlift, looking for a 2100 plus total. And there will be a bench only meet on Sunday, which I will not be competing at. So I repeat, not competing at the bench only meet. That's the baddest bench in Texas title for that meet. But I have committed and want to see what happens with this full total. So looking very good so far. Never want to count my chickens before they hatch. But very excited, very humbled by the strength that has come up in the last few weeks, and looking forward to putting on a pretty good show there. But I appreciate every single one of you guys tuning in. I think we're sitting about 4,300 subscribers, which is amazing. Please like and subscribe. You can always follow me on Instagram at SwimHack, and I answer questions through DMs there pretty much every day. So I will see you guys next week, and thank you very much for tuning in.